Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly wonderful to look out and see all of you here on this glorious day. Governor and Senators, thank you for your service, your support of Mount Vernon, your commitment to the Commonwealth, and your service to our nation is both impressive and very much appreciated. I would like to take a moment and acknowledge just a few of the many special guests we have with us today. First, I would like to ask the Vice Regents of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association to please stand. In particular, I would like to recognize Claire Edwards from Connecticut. Claire, who chaired our library task force. Gay Gaines from Florida, who chaired our successful Capitol campaign. And Mary Beth Borthwick from California, who chaired this lovely event today. As well as Adrienne Mars, our former Vice Regent from Wyoming, who is our honorary chair. As many of you know, the Mount Vernon Ladies Association was founded in 1853 by Anne Pamela Cunningham, who saved Mount Vernon from ruin by rallying a group of trailblazing women to raise $200,000, which was a considerable sum at the time, to purchase the estate from the Washington family. After both the federal government and the Commonwealth of Virginia passed on the opportunity, Ms. Cunningham was famously quoted as saying, "If the men of America will not save the beloved home of George Washington, the women of America surely will." Thus marked the beginning of not only the Ladies Association, but the birth of the historic preservation movement in America. In the more than 150 years that we have maintained and operated Mount Vernon, we have never accepted a dime of government money. We rely solely on the generosity of patriotic Americans such as yourselves, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We have welcomed more than 85 million visitors to Mount Vernon, people from around the world, to our nation's most historic visited home. This library enables us to reach out across the country and across the world to educate millions about George Washington, the indispensable man without whom this nation could not have been created. General Washington led us to independence, presided over the Constitutional Convention, refused to be king, and served 2 terms as president before he left power and came home to his beloved Mount Vernon. That is an example of leadership that we believe is more relevant in today's world than ever before, and this library will help us keep that legacy alive. Thanks to all of you, we will fulfill that mission. I would like to recognize several groups which provide Mount Vernon Ladies Association with support and much needed advice. First, will the members of the Governor's Board of Visitors for Mount Vernon please stand? Thank you. I would like the current and former members of our advisory committee to stand and be recognized. And last, but certainly not least, the members of our Lifeguard Society, the Founders Washington Committee, and the Neighborhood Friends Steering Committee. Would you please stand? Thank you all. We simply could not accomplish all that we do without your support. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce one of the newest members of Mount Vernon's executive team, Dr. Douglas Bradburn, who was recently named founding director of the library. Doug, would you stand? Doug is a professional scholar and a professor of history who is focused on the founding era. He comes to us from the State University of New York at Binghamton. I would like to take a moment to recognize a very important person whose singular leadership and vision pushed this ambitious project forward and who is unable to join us in person today. That would be our former president, Jim Reese. Thank you for joining me in expressing our gratitude to him for his more than 30 years of service to Mount Vernon. I would also like to recognize the very talented team who designed and constructed this building, the architects Air St. Gross, general contractor Whiting Turner, and also MFM Design, as well as Sean Regan. It is both astounding and inspiring to have received so much enthusiastic support for this important campaign. As Kurt mentioned earlier, we have more than 7,000 people who step forward to donate to the library and make this day possible. Thank you, each and every one of you. I hope you will take a moment and examine the spectacular list of generous donors. The library's Wall of Honor is just inside the building on the left, as well as the list that's in your program. I wish I could individually recognize everyone, but because of time constraints, I will acknowledge a few of our most generous supporters and ask them to stand and be recognized. I will read their names as they appear on the wall, and please hold your applause until complete. The Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, the Richard and Helen DeVos Foundation, John and Adrian Mars, David M. Rubenstein. David, are you here? Karen Buchwald Wright, Mary Beth and William Harold Borthwick, Sarah Colson, Gay and Stanley N. Gaines, Crawford Taylor Foundation, Donald and Nancy Delasky, Forrest Mars Jr., Robert Plaster Foundation, Richard M. Scaife, who could not be here, the Gordon V. and Helen C. Smith Foundation, and will John Bookout please stand and represent our family? Thank you. Thank you very much. Last, but certainly not least, I would like to especially acknowledge Fred W. Smith, the chairman of the Reynolds Foundation. For those of you who do not know, the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation is an organization that has proven to be one of the greatest advocates for teaching the world about the importance of George Washington. The Mount Vernon Ladies Association's relationship with the Reynolds Foundation began nearly over a decade ago, during a time when the Gilbert Stuart's iconic Lansdowne portrait of President Washington, which had been on loan to the Smithsonian Institute, was going to auction. Under the patriotic leadership of Fred Smith and President Steve Anderson, the foundation stepped forward and purchased this national treasure as a gift to the nation. Then, with a gift of almost $24 million, they quickly became the largest donor to our 2006 capital campaign, which created the state-of-the-art Donald W. Reynolds Museum and Education Center. The foundation has also helped in a number of creative ways to reach Americans beyond our walls, including support for the well-visited traveling exhibition, Discovering the Real George Washington, New Views from Mount Vernon, as well as endowing our popular Teachers Institute in 3 states. In 2010, we announced the launch of a capital campaign, headed by Gay Gaines, to fund the Fred W. Smith National Library for the study of George Washington with their extraordinary lead gift of $38 million. The association is well aware of the Reynolds Foundation's record of awarding gifts to financially sound, efficient, and entrepreneurial nonprofits, and we pledge to do all in our power to make the very best use of what is by far the largest gift in Mount Vernon's history. It is my great pleasure to present the chairman of the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, who is one of the greatest advocates for America's foremost founding father. Please join me in welcoming Fred W. Smith.